I just watched videos all about the tartive dyskinesia that I was talking about because I experienced it. Um, Mine never got like full blown or anything because once that shit started happening, I was like, there's no fucking way. I have functioned for 33 years without it. Um, I've had bipolar my whole life. I mean, when I look up the symptoms of the stuff, I was like, I've had it ever since I was a kid. And that gave me, like, you know, a different perspective of it when I started, like, learning about the symptoms and stuff. Because I'm like, I freaked out. I freaked out when they said that just because of how my brother was treated. And I remember my brother like shaking so bad, and he was a good auto mechanic also, so he did like he was an awesome fitness trainer. He was my fitness trainer for a while, and he was like amazing at it, and he was also an auto mechanic. And whenever he was experiencing it, like just these horrible shakes and stuff like that, like from what I understand, like what I experienced is nothing that like when it gets full blown. And then it's like, you've got to be kidding me. And then I'm hearing this one doctor's perspective of it, and he's like, yeah, generally doctors don't think it's that big of a deal, but they really need to consider their patient's perspective of it. And I'm like, wouldn't that be the first thing that you considered in all of this when your patient's complaining of this? And they're just like, well, it's normally not that harmful. I'm like, how are you supposed to function like in social settings, out in the world, or working with this kind of disorder? Like, when you read the full-blown symptoms of it, it's like uncontrollable leg and arm movements, and I did this thing with my shoulder all the time, and I thought it was like a nervous, it was that shit, and I wasn't even on all these antipsychotics for that long. Like I said, when I take one, it's because I'm having an episode and I need to chill the fuck out, but I've had to realize my triggers in all of this. But seeing the research on it, and it's like, yeah, the reason that is being put out like it wasn't that big of a deal is because that's what fucking Big Pharma was putting out. We're just now seeing these commercials on the TV and stuff like that is bringing awareness to what is going on. Like, you should really question Big Pharma and all the commercials that you're watching on TV. Like, I really, like, look at that, and I'm like, it's always these people doing, like, these fun activities and having a blast, and it's like, yeah, that's not the reality of what's going on in our lives. Like, they should have a commercial for these, different fucking meds with the symptoms where they're actually showing what you do. Just like alcohol commercials. When they're showing everybody's having a blast and it's like, yeah, we're all getting wasted and it's so much fun. And I think it was Dave Chappelle that was, I don't know, it was some comedian where he's like saying like, we should show what we actually do when we get wasted, how you're like, buddy puked in your car. I had that happen before. Oh my God. One time, and this was when I was a teenager, I started drinking when I was 13. When I was a teenager, and I had to slam on the brakes, and my friend behind me puked all down my back. But if we showed commercials like this and gave a realistic perspective of what goes on, like, I want them to start showing these antipsychotic drugs and then show the real symptoms of what's happening in fucking people's life. It would be me sitting on my bed with freaking ice cream and a bag of chips, raiding my sister's whole fridge. I felt so bad because whenever I was taking it like every night to get sleepy and stuff. It would be like 2 hours in. I was like a raccoon going through my sister's fridge. Like, I was like, if I stay on this, I am going to gain so much freaking weight. So it's like, oh, now I don't have to worry about having a manic episode. I just gotta worry about like all my internal organs and becoming overweight and having high cholesterol and how like too much lithium and Depakote is poisoning your blood. Like, God, we need to have commercials that show the reality of this crap, where it's not just being pushed on TV, like, side effects is... It's like, Or like Donald Trump was trying to get imposed, the medical commercials would have to show the cost of the medicine. And I was like, that is a fucking amazing idea. That is a great idea. Because they'll show, people are out playing sports and playing with their kids and doing all this. Like the commercials of the mothers is like, I don't know. Showing now I can be an active member in my child's life. And if medicines help you, like, by all means, take them. If it helps you, yes. But for a realistic perspective to be put on this, like when I started seeing the commercials finally for tardive dyskinesia, that's what made me realize, like, that's what I was going through. I said Parkinson's-like disease because it's like, that's what it felt like to me. I didn't realize that, and it didn't take any time, my body was starting to go through that tardive dyskinesia, where I was out at the waterfalls, and I love the waterfalls. It's my favorite thing to do. And my legs were just like, I could not walk right. And I've been walking my whole life. And all of a sudden, I can't walk right. And I don't have a smile on my face anymore. And I'm not enjoying what the Lord created. There's a problem with that. I wish that these commercials would show the reality, and that they would start telling people that when you get put on these meds, if you all of a sudden get too miserable and you suddenly withdraw, you will feel like committing suicide. Because whenever I was just, and I wasn't telling my family because I knew my family would freak out. Whenever I stopped taking my meds, I had a feeling that my sister kind of knew, but she wasn't going to say anything to me about it because I saw what my brother went through. Because a lot of family members, they'll get freaked out and they'll kind of like withdraw, and it makes you feel like more and more alienated, and it builds on itself. So I have a feeling that she knew that I wasn't, but she was monitoring my behavior. Luckily, like, I have a couple of people in my life that really stuck by my side. And, when I was the little sister taking care of my brother, it ended up being my little sister that had to, like, come and take care of me. And, always had my back. No matter how crazy, she would be in the ER holding my hand the whole time. Sorry, it gets me full of like happy emotions, because other parts of my family were just like they were afraid, but they didn't know what to say or how to interact with me. So I felt like more and more alienated, and then it would build on itself. But so many people, they'll get so miserable in their meds that they'll just suddenly stop taking them. And that's why I say taper, 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 taper. Do not ever go cold turkey, because what I started doing was looking up ways to kill myself, because I was so overwhelmed, and the reality that I was seeing kept getting like just darker and darker and darker, and it was causing me to go from being somebody that always had a hypomanic brain and being a happy person, you know, to just a deep, dark place. I've never Googled easy ways to kill yourself before in my life, but it became a fantasy in my head, because it was like, okay, you can take these meds that make you feel terrible, or you can just go on to be with the angels and the Lord like you felt like you were in Mania, because, you know, like I said, it was heaven on earth. And when it's like I woke up and I'm in the Looney Tune bin, and I'm seeing all these people around me, and I'm seeing the grim reality, and then I'm being told that I should go ahead and file for disability. And I always worked really hard my whole life. I was fucking terrified. Like I said, it felt like having cancer. But I really wish that in these fucking commercials, they would show the reality, or they would say how many people went and killed themselves while they were taking these meds. And this tartive dyskinesia, where, you know, the doctor's saying, you know, more doctors need to take it serious and take the patient's perspective. And why the fuck are you treating me as my doctor if you don't care about my perspective, and you don't care about what's going on, that you're only giving me meds to make it to where, you know, well, you're not manic, you didn't have another psychotic episode. And it's like, I hate what it did to my family, because it was like, you know, I did terrible things whenever I was manic and going through psychosis, but it wasn't, you know, I have to remind myself it wasn't me. It was me, but in a way, like, it wasn't me, because I wasn't myself anymore, because I was going through such severe PTSD that I went from hypomanic to flat out manic, and then psychotic. Once I didn't sleep, I couldn't tell the difference between movies that I watched, books that I read, stories that I heard of. Like, my life, it was just a big jumbled mess, because I was going days and days without sleeping, and I wasn't telling people, because I would sleep for like an hour and then like wake up and do all kinds of research, and like I got so into it, like it became an addiction to me. Because I was by myself, sitting at my house alone, and it just like, it grew and it grew and it grew. And I did go to a NAMI meeting. That made me feel even more fucking depressed. I'm sorry, like, I enjoyed hearing people's stories and perspectives on things, but I was like, oh no, like, oh, terrified. But I wish they would. I wish they would show the reality of what these conditions are, and how many people end up committing suicide when they cold turkey these type of meds. You know, I feel like there's better ways of treating people. And, you know, now it's like you can't get the good drugs. Like, you can't get like benzos and stuff, because they're so afraid that everybody's going to be like addicted. And so now we're pushing out all this garbage that's causing these horrible things that people can't function. Like, you can't function as a drug addict, But you also can't function if you have tardive kinesia and you can't control your arms or legs. I mean, he couldn't even work on cars anymore. The shaking got so bad, and after being on these meds and looking back at my brother's experience, I can definitely say without a doubt these meds caused way more damage than they did good. You know, but that's only if you're having severe problems functioning without them. But now it's like, that's the first thing they kept doing. Like, they're like, take this antipsychotic, take this antipsychotic, take this one, and we can't give you, like, antidepressants because that might cause mania again. And I'm like, well, I'm going home and Googling ways to kill myself. Thank God I didn't have access to a gun. And one day there was a gun laid out in a room that I was in, and my first thought was like, I just want to end my suffering and be with the Lord. And I had to remind myself I'm a mother, and just because they did really dirty shit in family court to make me have a nervous breakdown, when they did this stuff, I was very high functioning. Like I said, I worked for America's largest laboratory company doing 400 to 500 miles a day, and they totally ambushed and attacked me, and they based it on, oh, mother has a mental illness. I wasn't even diagnosed with bipolar at that point. The only thing they had was me reacting and this wasn't even in front of my kids, just screaming at both of my exes, because both of my exes, yeah, best friends. My daughter's dad and my son's dad, which were both abusive assholes. That's why I finally left them. One I was with for 7 years, the other I was with for 5 years. And in abusive relationships, I feel like, I mean, that's going to have to be another topic. But us bipolars kind of crave these relationships because they're exciting, you know, because you got your honeymoon and you got your excitement, and then before you know it's shit again, and they know that they can make you feel like shit so you will never leave. That's the way an abuser gets in a woman's head, a woman or a man. I believe men are abused all the time, and more of it is emotional, but I definitely believe men are physically abused too. And, you know, they can't hit back, but at the same time, like, they know, just like men and women, abusive men and women typically get custody. But like I said, that's going to have to be for another video. But we gotta do something to fight back fucking big pharma. Like, I'm sick of seeing this bullshit on my TV that they're fucking peddling out to the masses. Because I worked in the hospital. I worked in the ER third shift when the druggies would come in. I've seen crazy shit in my day. And we are not helping people. Not enough. Thank you.